is an independent federal agency that's charged by Congress with investigating every civil aviation accident in the United States, as well as significant events in other modes of transportation. We are independent. We are not part of the U.S. Department of Transportation. And why that is important to mention is that as part of our investigation, we also have oversight authority in the investigation over the Federal Aviation Administration. We're here to investigate a collision between a Bombardier CRJ 900 with an aircraft rescue and firefighting vehicle while the aircraft was landing at LaGuardia last night around 11:37 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The airplane was operated by Jazz Aviation, doing business as Air Canada Express, Flight 8646. It had 72 passengers on board and 4 crew on board. 2 firefighters were in the firefighting vehicle. I want to just take a moment and, on behalf of the entire National Transportation Safety Board, express our deepest condolences to those who lost loved ones in this terrible tragedy. We also know others have suffered injury, and our sympathies are with each of you as well. I will mention we have 5 members of our Transportation Disaster Assistance Team here on scene, as well as the chief of our Transportation Disaster Assistance Division. They work in concert with the American Red Cross, and thank you to the American Red Cross, to provide resources and information about our investigation and what we are doing to those who lost loved ones, or those survivors or families of survivors throughout the investigation, not just here on scene, but as we move forward with our investigation through the final board meeting and sometimes after. We also expect to have around 25 specialists on site here on scene. That is in addition to many employees at the NTSB who are supporting this investigation back at headquarters in Washington, D.C. The team in total began to arrive at 3:10 a.m. Some are still en route, which means that we have not had a full day of investigation here today. And I think that's important because there are a lot of questions, and I understand there are a lot of questions. I've heard them on air traffic control. I've heard questions on the tower. I've heard questions on air traffic control communications. I've heard questions on the vehicle, many questions. And I know that you all have those questions, but I just want to set expectations. We have LaGuardia that was shut down. We had a ground stop at Newark today. And then we have DHS that shut down, and we have long TSA lines. We have our air traffic control specialist who was in line with TSA for 3 hours until we called in Houston to beg to see if we can get her through so we can get her here. So it's been a really big challenge to get the entire team here, and they're still arriving as I speak. Right up until about, I think the latest I saw was midnight, maybe 1 a.m. tomorrow morning. So it is a long travel day for many of those, and many are arriving by sure plane. We have had many that have come here by train, and certainly automobile. We drove up, a number of us. So with that said, I do want to talk a little bit about what we were able to do today. We did a walking inspection of the scene, and we have a site commander doing a really important job, which is a safety walkthrough of the scene to make sure that our safety investigators or our investigators are safe while they are on scene. There is a tremendous amount of debris from taxiway Delta across runway 4 into some other areas. It's pretty expansive, and we want to make sure, because as you're walking around, you can get injured. There's also hazardous materials, of course, on the firefighting vehicle itself, so we want to make sure their safety. In addition, obviously the tail of this aircraft is on the ground, and in order to get to the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder, the Port Authority and the emergency responders cut a hole on the roof of the aircraft, dropped down, and was able to get the CVR and FDR for us, which then one of our investigators drove back to our labs in Washington, D.C. today, where they've been able to at least verify that the cockpit voice recorder was not damaged. They'll begin work on the FDR, the flight data recorder, tomorrow. And hopefully we'll have information to share. My hope is that we'll have information to share on that tomorrow in a press conference. We also began to collect information from FAA and others, certainly on air traffic control staffing in the tower, communications training. We're looking for information today from the Fire and Rescue Department on their crew and on their vehicles, what the capabilities were of their vehicles, and everything from how much they weighed to what they were carrying. And then we began to form our investigative groups for this investigation. So we have an operations group that we have formed, and that will look at the operator itself as well as procedures and training for the aircraft. We will have a systems investigative group. That group will examine the components of the airplane's hydraulic, electrical, navigational, pneumatic, and associated systems, including instruments and flight control system. We have a structures group that will be documenting the airframe wreckage and the accident scene, including calculating impact angles. And we have an air traffic control investigative group, as well as, I mentioned, a cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder group. And finally, we'll have an airport operations and survival factors combined group. That group will look at the airport rescue and firefighting operations at the airport, and they will look at injuries to occupants as it relates to the dynamics of this crash. I mentioned we have the CVR and FDR. We've also collected and have continued to collect surveillance video. We've asked the Federal Aviation Administration, who will be providing that a ASD replay of the event, ASD Airport Surface Detection Equipment replay of the event. And that is actually looking at the ASD display that was provided to the controller. And so we will be looking at that, where we can see where the aircraft was at certain times and whether the truck was visible on ASD. We'll also be getting an ASD analysis from the FAA's Tech Center. That will provide us information on whether alerts were generated and other data, including distance of the aircraft that was landing on runway 4 as the firefighting vehicle was approaching the runway from taxiway Delta. With that, I'm going to take some questions, but again, I just want to be clear. I know you have a lot of questions, you have a lot of detailed questions, and you want that information. I hope to provide more of that information tomorrow. I won't be able to provide a lot of that information tonight. We have a lot of data right now, a lot of information, including information on tower staffing. But the NTSB deals in facts. We don't speculate. We don't take one person at their word. We verify that information carefully before we provide it. So that is something we still have to do. With that, I'll take that. Can you provide your name and affiliation? Can I articulate some of the remaining questions that we have, particularly, well, for this investigation, for the accident itself, and particularly related to air traffic control? You know, at this stage of the investigation, we don't limit ourselves. So we have questions on everything. And we look for everything, we collect everything. We may have information that comes our way that we didn't expect, so we don't rule anything out until later. So we have a lot of questions on everything. Yes. Yeah, the question is, can I provide information regarding staffing in the tower? Can I provide information on who or what position the controller held that was communicating? And can I provide information about the pilot backgrounds at this time? Not at this time. I will have that information tomorrow. Do we have information? Yes. But we need to verify that information before we provide it. It's just preliminary information, and we aren't able to provide it yet. We still have to do the question is, how do we go about verifying it? We have to look at records. There's sign-in sheets. We have to do interviews. We have to look at time cards. There's a lot of information that and then official records from the airline. So that is information we always have to corroborate. David, and then I'm going to come over here. The question is, where was the aircraft when the controller gave clearance for the truck, the firefighting truck, to cross, and what was and the experience of the controllers? The experience of the controllers we still have to look at on where the aircraft was. That is actually part of what we hope to get from the FDR. Which we'll get hopefully tomorrow, the flight data recorder, but then also from the ASDI analysis that the tech center will provide us. The question is, did the pilots follow all the instructions? We still have to have the cockpit voice recorder verified and analyzed by all the group members before we can provide any information on that. Yes. The question is on the shift of the controllers. Again, this was a mid-shift. Typically, and again, I'm just going to say this preliminarily, it could be different tomorrow. The shift might run 10:30 to 6 a.m., but we have to verify that, and we have to verify how long the controllers were on before they took over and when the shift change was. The question is, well, first let me, there was a question on whether there was a crew member ejected on impact. We don't answer those questions. I would refer you to the chief medical examiner for New York City. That person can answer those questions. We don't comment on, fatalities or injuries at this stage. And your other question was what protocols exist between say, airport operations and with respect to firefighting and aircraft landing. That is part of our investigation, and we'll be looking at that throughout this investigation. Well, hold on. The question is how many are on shift typically. That's still something we have to verify with our air traffic control team.
And then is there an estimate about when runway 4 might reopen? So I know you have to get out there and look at it, but is it when you then move can off there? So are we talking 24 hours, 48?
The question is how long will that runway be closed? For us to conduct our investigation. It's going to take some time. I just want to express how much there is a lot of debris. We need to go through all of that and to figure out what we need to take back to the NTSB, to our labs, what we might want to collect. First and foremost, what we need to take pictures of to document that evidence. That's all evidence. And we need to document that first, then we need to collect some of that evidence, then we get to that. It's going to be days. I'm not sure.
2 more questions?
Yep.
How do you work with community and investigative authorities? When are they set to arrive? And what kind of information is shared with them?
Yeah, so we'll be working with the Transport Safety Board of Canada, and we work with ICAO under Annex 13. So the Transport Safety Board of Canada is the state of, will come from Canada to represent Canada, and they'll have technical advisors with them from the operator and I believe from the manufacturer as well. And we coordinate on scene just like other investigations, just like we would participate in foreign investigations as well. They are also part of our team for fact finding. Last one. Can I speak to what would happen? So I think the question is what is currently happening with that air traffic controller. Typically, they would be removed from duty, and certainly it's pretty traumatic for that air traffic controller as well, and we'll want to interview that air traffic controller as well as others that were in the tower or maybe not even in the tower. With respect to what that individual is doing right now, I would have to refer that to the Federal Aviation Administration. Again, that was the last question. I understand that you have a lot of questions and want detailed information, but I just want to remind you that what would happen if I gave you wrong information, unverified information right now? You would do an entire story on unverified information, and tomorrow I'd have to tell you it's wrong. And then you'd be mad at me again for different reasons. So what I'm going to tell you is we are world-renowned investigators, but we deal in facts. And if we are not able to verify those yet, and we haven't been able to, we can't provide those. We have a lot of information, but we need to be able to verify that information and provide it to you. We will do our best to provide you as much information as possible tomorrow. Thank you.